Oliver, in a few weeks, hundreds of thousands of British undergraduates will go back to university and they will live in conditions unrecognisable from the squalor which our generation resided. Can you explain to me how the UK student accommodation market differs from that in many other countries?
So yeah, it's really developed in the past sort of 10 or 20 years, this specialist student accommodation market, and it's in response partly to growing numbers of students and demands for better accommodation. But there's now a market, particularly in cities where there's lots of universities. Unlike in other countries, a lot of UK universities are in the middle of cities. They're not like on large campuses as they might be in the States. So students tend to live and study within the cities. And so now there's a whole market sprung up developing these purpose-built blocks of apartments or individual rooms for students to live in.
And these are typically quite luxurious, right, with ensuite bathrooms and things.
Yes, as you say, not the kind of thing we might have lived in 20 or 30 years ago. But this is what students have now, and the cost of these is rising. They're not cheap, these places to live, but parents of students often sort of backstop the cost of it. So there has been demand.
Now, the cost of education, higher education in Britain has risen sharply because, of course, the government has effectively tripled the amounts that universities are allowed to charge for tuition. Has that not poleaxed demand for higher education because it's made it so much more expensive?
Doesn't seem to have done, no. People are still very keen to go to university regardless of the fees and to take on ever more debt to pay for it. Students finished with an awful lot of debt these days. So there's also been a large influx of overseas students that's increased demand for university places and for accommodation. And recently the cap on the number of students that each university could take has been lifted. That will increase demand still further on the accommodation that there is.
So demand for the accommodation is rising, the price charged for that accommodation is rising. This sounds like a marvellous investment opportunity. What's the catch?
Well, the catch is that a lot of people have already spotted that it's a marvellous investment opportunity. It's been very, very popular, student accommodation, as an alternative asset class. In the UK, in the purpose-built market, it's a market worth about £18 billion, but £4 billion of that changed hands in the first half of this year alone. So a lot of money coming into the sector. That's driven valuations up. If you look at Unite, which is the largest listed owner of this purpose-built student accommodation, its shares are up 50% in the past year, and they now trade at about 20% premium to their net asset value. That's a very high valuation. And you've got to think that if at all the interest rates go up, so other asset classes, bonds perhaps become a little more popular, some of this more recent hotter money will come out of the student accommodation sector, and that'll put valuations at risk.
It doesn't sound like you need a degree to work out that the maths doesn't quite add up there. Oliver, thanks very much.